Hey everyone, welcome back to the How to Find Your Moxie podcast. I'm your host, Lizz Carter Clark, author of the book How to Find Your Moxie and founder of the nonprofit College Moxie, whose mission is to empower every woman to know their worth. Welcome back everyone, and Mackenzie is back.
Hi guys, thanks for having me, Liz. I'm excited to be here today.
I'm so glad you're here. If you haven't yet listened to our other episodes, Mackenzie is a senior at the University of Arizona, and she's been interning for us at College Moxie, and she's just an awesome human. So super excited to have her with us today. I want to do a little quick fire round of questions?
Yeah, hit me with them.
Okay. What is your favorite day of the week?
I would say Sunday. Like a good Sunday reset, get you ready for the next week. I really love Sundays. It's like a slow, get yourself together. I think Sundays are like the most important days.
Okay. Love it. Who inspires you?
Liz and my mother, I will say. Aww. Liz is a great inspiration and someone to look up to. Besides that, my mother, she is the smartest, most hardworking woman. She is amazing, and I wish I could be like half the person she is. And every day she inspires me to be better, do better.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Cheers to great moms.
Cheers to mothers.
And
I miss my mom.
I also, clarification, did not pay her to say that. So that
I didn't
was very
say that. Or I wasn't paid.
That was very sweet. Thank you. Yes. I appreciate it. Okay, what is a goal that you have for 2025?
Goal for 2025, I'm graduating this year. So my main goal is to get a job and kind of start my adult life in a way. A personal goal, I want to run a half marathon and possibly a full marathon if I'm feeling crazy. But those are my two goals. Start my adulthood.
I love it.
Be successful with it.
That sounds lovely. I love it.
Thank you.
And I like that success can be measured in little increments too. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be like the end goal. It can just be like, today I'm successful.
Yeah.
Today I did something that led towards success. I love that.
Thank you.
Okay, so last week we started unpacking chapter 1 of How to Find Your Moxie, which is a series of episodes dedicated to the enemies of Moxie. So obviously we want to talk about all of the ways that we find our Moxie and build our Moxie, but it's also so important to talk about the things that get in the way of our Moxie, especially ones that we have control to change. Mm-hmm. So today we're going to talk about lies we believe. This is actually one of my very favorite things to talk about on college campuses because I see a lot of aha moments happen. Because I think those lies, I always say it's just like the difference between crack and coke. It's the same problems, they just show up differently. And at the end of the day, it just all boils down to like pressure. And then like, what is it that we believe we have to do to fit into a certain group or culture or like whatever that looks like. I see Maddie agreeing with me. Yeah. It's real. It's real.
It's very real.
Yeah. So a lot of the lies that I see show up on campuses are, I have to be this size to be pretty, or I have to party this many nights to be relevant, or I have to party with these people in order to be enough.
Yeah.
It definitely feeds into social media with like, I have to get this many likes on a post or no one cares. Sometimes on some campuses, it shows up as if I'm not pulling all-nighters 3 nights a week, then I'm not working hard enough. So tell me how this resonates with you. What did you think about all of this in this chapter?
Well, one thing that really stood out to me, you wrote, FOMO is a liar. And I think that's one of the most incredible sentences because especially in college, like you were saying, like you got to hang out with these people or go out and do this. And if you're not there, you're missing so many opportunities. And I think as college students, we get really caught up in that idea. And I found myself in that situation so many times. And I've luckily kind of recently got to the point where I'm good with my circumstances. You know, I don't feel bad if I'm not at an event, you know, because at the same time, like I'm living my personal life. And I think the idea of lies that we believe in college is so prevalent, and absolutely everybody feels it in a way and deals with it in different ways. But it's very prevalent, and I think it does get better as time goes on throughout your experience in college. But
yeah, I mean, I love that you've like gotten to this place where you're like, wait, I'm gonna hit reset. I don't have to like buy into all of this, but I feel like that often happens like when you are a senior, you
Yeah.
know, and it wouldn't we get so much more out of our college experience if we had that aha moment as a freshman? Because I definitely think one of the lies a lot of us believe, and this is not just for people in college, by the way, this is like throughout life, is that we can do it all. You
Yeah,
know, I mean, the world tries to make us think you can do it all. Yes, you can, but you can't do it all well. We're all humans and we have limited capacity. And so if something gets a lot of my energy, something else is not going to. And, you know, constantly figuring out the fluidity of balance, I think, is a challenge for a lot of us, especially like someone like me. I mean, I've got ADHD and I don't live in routine. So it's hard for me to like find that balance. But I think a lot of times if we don't get to a point where we realize today I'm doing good, I'm like putting good into the world, I'm being productive, and I'm taking time for myself and like getting a little self-care out of this turnip that I'm squeezing,
Yes.
then, you know, life's a lot harder if we don't decide that that is success.
Yeah. And I think you have to find your own version of what that is, because I think that differs between everybody, you and me. Like, how do you feel content with what you're doing, and how do you do it in a way that only pleases you and rather than others, you know?
Yeah, for sure. What are some of the lies that you see show up like in your life?
I think a big thing about college is what I've noticed, at least in Greek life, is a lot of people come from different backgrounds wealth-wise. And so there's a lot of people who have like the best clothes and the nicest like shoes and jewelry, and like I found myself like I need to get those things to be on the same playing field, which is so not true, you know? Like, I need that shirt because everyone has it, but you don't, you know? And I found that in myself, that it's not. You can be your own person and do things your way and not necessarily what the common group of people like think is cool, you know?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
I think you bring up a really interesting potential lie too, that like want has become need.
Yes, absolutely.
Like we use the word need a lot. And like, do we actually need it? No, we want it. Okay. If we want it, what's motivating the want?
Yeah.
And like, do we feel more worthy of belonging if we have a certain thing, like you're saying?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I guarantee you're not the only person that has like had moments of that.
Yeah, and it's also another thing I've realized, that like there's so many different friend groups in college, and different groups of people do different things. And I think going back to social media, is we see on social media, it's around Thanksgiving time right now, so you're seeing a million Friendsgivings, and it's like, for some people that's hard when you don't necessarily have that group of people to be around. And sometimes it's social media like shows that, oh, they have a million friends and they're doing all of this, but that's not necessarily true. And that might just be a random group of people who don't really hang out. And you know,
That's so real.
it is.
Yeah.
I also wanted to ask you about, you talk about the fear of rejection over death sometimes. Like, people are more scared of rejection than...
Oh yeah, I think I was quoting. There's a study where a lot of people fear public speaking over death, and so just this concept of like, what is that? Like, if I'm afraid to speak in front of others, it doesn't mean I'm afraid to make a mistake in front of other people, afraid for people to not see me as perfect because it's authentic, you know? I mean, it's kind of like writing the book was one thing, doing this is another, because this is just like our free-flowing thoughts around things. And so it's more vulnerable, you know, especially in a world that sometimes is like looking for something to like take out of context or whatever that looks like. But yeah, I think fear very much gets in our way sometimes. And like, especially when it comes to believing lies, because if we see things happening around us and decide to just believe, especially without questioning, that that's what we have to do in order to fit in, like, we don't even realize we're giving our power away. Like, we're totally giving away our power to some other entity, some group of people, to determine our worth and to let us know if we're enough. Like, if I believe the lie that I have to get this many likes on a social media post, I mean, that's not something I really think about. I don't even know like how many likes are on something, but it's a pressure that I very much see in campus culture.
Yeah.
But if we believe that that is what matters, then we're somehow connecting it to how we feel about ourselves and our worth. And I think a lot of times if we think about it, we're giving our power away to people that maybe don't even care about us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I even find myself like looking at girls' Instagram being like, wow, like I'm so amazed by their post and everything. And at the end of the day, that's kind of hurting me in a sense, you know? I'm admiring someone else and that how amazing they are. But at the end of the day, I'm kind of reflecting on myself. Oh, why can I make this post that looks like that? Or why do all of these girls, they're famous and I, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think that goes to assumption too. I mean, seeing what other people are doing and feeling like, okay, that's what I should be doing, or that's what everyone is doing. Like it can create pressure that is really unnecessary. I mean, the reason that I say lies instead of pressures is that there's nothing about these beliefs that's rooted in concrete fact.
Yes.
It's just our interpretations of like what's necessary for us to fit in. And I think the power in it is being able to identify them, because if we realize, okay, I'm believing this lie, then we can start to push against it. But if we don't ever recognize what it is, it'll just continue to kind of own us in a way, you know? Like I also think it's important to realize that new lies crop up all the time. Like I realized one of the lies that I tend to believe is that if I'm awake, I need to be productive. Like I get a dopamine fix from being productive. And so it makes me great at work. It makes me great at like pumping out content and new projects, but it isn't always the best thing for me. And it is important that in moments I remember that who I am is not in any way determined by what I produce.
Yes.
As a person. And so I think realizing that, knowing that about myself helps me to check myself, because if we're not aware of the lies we're buying into, then it's a lot harder to push against them. And then we just let them kind of take control over us.
Yeah. You spoke about like heart and mind choices, like what your heart wants rather than what your brain thinks. And how do you recommend like going around that kind of thing? Around like these lies and realizing maybe my brain knows that I should not be feeling like this, but I am. I'm getting the FOMO. I'm feeling it, but I know I shouldn't. How do you navigate trying to?
I'm a big list person. And I think for me, I really enjoy being able to like make a list of what is factual and then make another list of like what I'm assuming. Because if I can put them in buckets, then I can be like, okay, in my head, in my mind, all of this is equal. Yeah. But if I actually analyze it, it's like, okay, wait, these are things that I know for sure. These are things that I am assuming. And I just don't think assumptions ever serve us. We rarely assume positive about ourselves and about other people's intentions. We often assume positive about someone else's life experience. Yeah. So then we get into things like social media and it's like, well, are we ever actually comparing apples to apples? It's always someone else's highlight reel compared to our real life experience. And so believing the lie that A, what we see is real, B, that what we see is the whole story, and that C, our life is then inadequate because it doesn't measure up to that. It's like super sad and super dangerous. It is. The good news is we can make a different choice starting today, starting right now, starting tomorrow, whenever we're ready to. But just knowing that as long as we buy into beliefs that are based in assumption, we're never really serving ourselves. And we're also not giving ourselves very much grace.
Yeah, no, there's no room for grace. If that's what, you're putting all your energy towards, you're not giving room for yourself to grow and realize and internalize all those thoughts. And I just think it's important for everyone to self-reflect and take time to, like you said, write a list and put those thoughts on paper and look at them rather than not seeing it in your head, but look at them and really like internalize, like, that's not true. I just think it is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I think for me, in moments when I've done that, I also tend to see through lines where I'm like, wow, I'm really assuming a lot of negative things in these particular relationships. Sometimes I think that that's like, hey, I've got a gut worth trusting. Maybe what I'm seeing causes me to need to remove myself a little bit. But it also might be like, wow, this is a person in my life that I think is really well intended based on evidence, yet I'm always kind of assuming something different. Where is that coming from in me that maybe feels insecure or inferior, that isn't grounded in fact based on like the behavior of that person,
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're our worst critic. We all are our worst critic. And you also talked in the book, you said, no one's talking about you, But we all think that. There's more context to that, but like, we all think that, oh my God, I did this one thing and everyone's thinking about it. And actually everyone it leaves their head. Everyone's really thinking about themselves, in that moment. And it's easy to get stuck in that cycle.
Yeah, that is very, very true. Okay, what's one good takeaway from today for you?
Take a step back, just take a step back and really look at what's important and what I find important, and honestly, to just look at your life from a different perspective, put on a different pair of glasses and try to see it from someone else's point of view and what you can do to make your interactions better with others and how to make yourself feel better and more confident with what you believe,
Yeah, I like that.
What's your biggest takeaway?
I love the reminder that you just gave to just know that it's not all about us, Like, not everything is that deep.
Yeah.
But when our worldview is like of a party of one, like sometimes I wonder like, is there a psychological connection to constant insecurity and narcissism? Or like, if we are so focused on ourselves, then we really don't leave a lot of room for other people to like influence us in a positive way, and to hear what people are saying that is positive over what they're saying that's negative. It's
just a shift, and it's kind of like I said, take a step back like a million times, but it is like just kind of trying to rework your thinking and trying to rework how you just assume things.
That's so real. That is so real. I'm so glad you're here.
Yes.
This is good.
I'm very, very glad I'm here.
Yay. And we're definitely going to dive into assumptions more in a few more episodes.
Yes.
Because, man, it's crazy how they can get in our way.
So many things can. So many things.
Yes, which is why we have a whole podcast.
Yes. That's a whole reason.
It's a whole thing. Thanks for listening to today's episode and for being part of our community. Please be sure to like and follow along so that you can stay up to date with all of the awesome things that College Moxie is doing. We appreciate you. We couldn't do it without you, and we hope you have a great day.
Bye, guys.
Keep shining bright.